Hello everyone and welcome to Bhasi's IAS. Let's take up today's news analysis, that is 3rd December 2019. Let's get into our first article of discussion. Our first article is with respect to legislation or law-making powers of the government. The article talks about government seeks review of SC/ST creamy law. It urges Supreme Court to refer the matter to a 7-judge bench. First, we'll try to understand why in news. Why this is in news? This is in news because the Centre on Monday asked the Supreme Court to refer to a 7-judge bench of the question whether creamy layer concept should apply or not to the scheduled caste or scheduled tribes while providing them reservations and promotions. First, we'll try to understand what is this creamy layer and why this concept has arisen in India. So, creamy layer concept is related to Mandal Commission review, and the exclusion of creamy layer from the beneficiaries of reservation is a constitutional requirement to be honored by the central and the state government, is what the Supreme Court have stated. Now we'll go back to the history and see. Mandal Commission in India was established in the year 1979 by Janata Party government under the Prime Ministership of Morarji Desai with the mandate to identify socially and educationally backward people. The commission was set up under the chairmanship of Indian parliamentarian Bindeshwari Prasad Mandal to consider the question of seat reservations and quotas for people to redress caste discrimination, and it used 11 social economic education indicators to determine backwardness. Finally, in the year 1980, the Commission's report affirmed affirmative action practices under the Indian law whereby members of lower caste who are known as other backward classes and scheduled caste and tribes were given exclusive access to a certain portion of government jobs and slots in public universities, and recommended changes to these quotas, increasing them from 27% to 49.5%, but the creamy layer was excluded from the overview of the reservation. In 2018, modifying the part of Nagaraj case verdict which required the states to show quantifiable data to prove backwardness of a scheduled caste or scheduled tribe in order to provide quota in promotion in public employment had, however, rejected Centre's argument that Nagaraj case ruling that misread the creamy layer concept by applying it to SC/STs. So the whole object of reservation is to see that backward classes of citizens or a place move forward so that they may march hand in hand with those other citizens of India on an equal basis. This will not be possible if only the creamy layer within that class bag all the coveted jobs in the public sector and perpetuate themselves, leaving the rest of the classes as backward as they always were. 2018 verdict or judgment also said that when a court applies the creamy layer principle to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, it does not in any manner tinker with the presidential list under Article 341 or 342 of the Constitution. Caste or group or subgroup named in this list continues exactly as before. So it is only those within that group or subgroup who have come out of untouchability or backwardness by virtue of belonging to the creamy layer who are excluded from the benefit of reservation. While we are trying to understand the case history, we can understand from here some salient points to the past verdicts which dealt with the application of creamy layer concept in reservation is given. First one was in 1992 Indira Savni case. This was a 9-judge bench. SC/STs are the most backward among the backward classes. Once part of the presidential list under Article 341 and 342, there is no question of showing their backwardness again. This was the statement given. Later in 2006, under the M. Nagaraj case, quota benefits should go to the weakest of the weakest and not to be snatched away by members of the class who are in the top of the creamy layer. And recently in the year 2018, 5-judge bench in Jarnail Singh case stated that creamy layer ensures that only the deserving among the SC/STs get the benefits of reservation. Let's get into our second article of the day. This article deals with Centre ready to strengthen rape laws. This said by Rajnath Singh. Uproar in Parliament over the vet's death. Protests against vets' rape and murder continue in Telangana. Police seek custody of the 4 accused. Students demand death penalty. So let's get into this articles and see what's been talked about. First, we'll try to understand why in news. This is in news because of the recent Telangana rape incident where the verdict was raped and burned by 4 people in the time span of 2 days. So that is why this is in news. Now the government says that government is ready to make more stringent provisions in law. This is said by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. This was told to the Lok Sabha on Monday after members expressed outrage over the rape and murder of 26-year-old veterinarian in Hyderabad last week. The members, cutting across party lines, not only demanded hanging of the accused but also argued to have the death penalty as the only punishment for the offence of rape in the country. So as per the new decision by the government is ready to strengthen the rape law in the country, where for rape only punishment will be death penalty. The government also said that they are ready to amend IPC, where government was ready to amend the IPC or Indian Penal Code and the CRPC or the Criminal Procedure Code to ensure faster justice in cases like the Hyderabad rape and murder. There can't be a more inhuman crime than this. And the minister said that they have no words to condemn the heinous crime and the entire country has been shamed by the incident. The government said that government is ready to take toughest provisions in laws to give punishment to those involved in such ghastly incidents. Let the suggestions from the House come. The state ministers also blamed sale of liquor in Telangana for the unfortunate incident, alleging that the state government continued to violate Supreme Court guidelines because as per Supreme Court, from highways, after a certain kilometer distance only liquor shops have to be there, citing the reason that the drivers or the people relating to this movement of vehicles will be tempted to drink if it is nearby to the highway. So certain limit is provided, but the leaders accuse that Telangana state government not following this Supreme Court and continue to violate Supreme Court guidelines on the same. Leaders are of the opinion that even after the enactment of strict laws after the Nirbhaya case, rapes are still taking place. We have to bring a law and make the offence of rape punishable only by death penalty. And people are of the opinion that such a stand on rape punishment and talked about gender sensitization and teaching boys. A boy must be taught the meaning of no means no. There were also widespread protests against the heinous crime continued in the city of Hyderabad and other parts of Telangana on Monday, with students, lawyers and others taking out rallies and holding demonstrations demanding death penalty for the accused. Even the protesters is also of the opinion that death penalty have to be the only punishable way. So they raised slogans such as "We want justice" and holding placards that read "Hang the rapist." The charred body of the woman working as an assistant veterinarian in a state-run hospital was found under a culvert at Shatnagar on November 28 morning, and she went missing on 26th November. Even the Bar Association have decided not to represent the accused, citing moral and social responsibility in view of the heinous crime committed by the accused. Let's get into our next article of discussion. This article is with respect to NRC or National Register of Citizens. Article points out that the dubious legal case for an NRIC, provisions that empower the government to carry out such exercise, smack of arbitrariness. So first we'll try to understand why in news. This is in news because on November 20th, 2019, the Union Home Minister Mr. Amit Shah in Rajya Sabha said that preparation of National Register of Indian Citizens or NRIC, so NRIC stands for National Register of Indian Citizens, is governed by the provisions of Section 14A of Citizenship Act of 1955 and Citizenship, that is registration of citizens and issue of national identity cards rules of 2003. He is of the opinion that Section 14A of Citizenship Act, 14A, which belongs to Citizenship Act of 1955, provides for compulsory registration of every citizen of India and maintenance of NRIC. So compulsory registration is required. Procedure is to prepare and maintain NRIC as specified in the Citizenship Registration of Citizens and Issue of National Identity Cards rules of 2003. But at the same time, as per the Foreigners Act of 1946, burden of proving whether an individual is citizen or not lies upon the individual applicant and not on the state. Will the proposed NRIC strip bona fide citizens of basic legal protections by inverting the burden of proof just to satisfy the nefarious political agenda of the ruling establishment is the question asked. So last time central government tried to make an identity enrollment mandatory was through the process called Aadhaar. And this was struck down as excessive by Supreme Court. So NRIC scheme as proposed would thus be directly a violation of KS Puttuswamy versus judgment. Furthermore, not acquiring an Aadhaar number does not subject a citizen to the serious penal consequences envisaged as in the case of NRIC, that is the loss of citizenship, etc. So NRIC as a law exercise promises to inflict a long period of insecurity on well over 1 billion people. The individual most likely to suffer are those at very margins of poverty who risk being rendered stateless and worse, being incarcerated in detention camps which are truly a blot on our democracy. We can summarize this discussion by pointing out that central government may compulsory register every citizen of India and issue national identity card to him. The word may implies that a discretion contingent on other factors that is at odds with the supposed compulsory nature envisaged immediately thereafter. So a statute which issues a compulsory command must necessarily use the word shall. So if may is used, it can be, we have to see if it works or not, and shall will move towards a compulsory note. And in this law, the word may is used. So it may be worthwhile to note that this section was introduced in Jan 24 in the last days of NDA government too. Let's get into our next article of discussion. This is regarding Indian economy. Article points out that bigger is not necessarily better. Policies aimed solely at economic growth may fail to address more structural issues. Let's get into this article and see what's been talked about. First, let us understand why in news. It is very obvious because of the India's current economic slowdown. At an election rally in Pune in October, Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi is reported to have said that economy is on a course to achieve 5 trillion mark by 2024. So our aim is to achieve 5 trillion economy by the year 2024. This was a target set by Prime Minister in his last Independence Day speech. So, having emphasized his government role in expanding India's economy, Mr. Modi went on to say that bigger the economy, easier it was to eradicate poverty and fulfill the aspirations of the youth. He said that India's economy was full of opportunities for the youth and recent policy decisions, including tax reforms and allowing foreign direct investment. This would further boost his growth. So, 3 pieces of evidence, all from public sources, douse his elaborate narrative. But in the economy, contrary to the statements, whatever he have told, we have seen that there is an economic slowdown. But there are different factors to this. We cannot blame only a political party and their ideology on the same. There are obviously different factors contributing to slowdown in the Indian economy currently. And in this article, they have also spoken about data on jobs and consumption. So evidences are the unemployment figures contained in the periodic labor force survey released in May, and the consumption figures in the latest consumer expenditure survey of the NSO is yet to be released. A report in a prominent financial daily presented the main findings of the latter, which were in a form was cleared for the release in June, but no longer will be released due to adverse findings. Unfortunately, the survey report of 17-18 shows 45-year-old high rates of unemployment and consumption falling for the first time in over 40 years. Between 11 and 12, the previous year of both the surveys, unemployment rate for rural men more than trebled, while that for urban women more than double. The fall in consumption is less drastic than the rise in unemployment, and decline is confined to rural India. So basically, we can't blame the government saying that because of the trends they have set, it is clear that the policies of the Modi government aim to expand the size of the economy, but they were not able to reverse them. On the other hand, we know that 17-18 was a year of introduction of GST, that is goods and service taxes, and followed the one in which demonetization was implemented. So therein, the prima facie evidence that some of the policies of the government have adverse effects for many Indians. And another important point to be noted is that the rise in unemployment is far higher in rural India, and it is this segment that consumption has fallen. Now let's have a look at the data point of today's newspaper. So a new low. At the latest quarter, India's GDP grew at the lowest pace in 6.5 years. Also, the growth was not fueled by private consumption or investment, prime drivers of the economy, but through government spending which surged in recent quarters. So the article or the pictorial representation starts by stating that GDP has grown only, which is the lowest among the 6.5 years, and whatever growth recorded is also not by the private consumption, it is by the government spending or the government expenditure which surged in recent quarters. First, we'll try to understand among the slowest data. That is, GDP grew at 4.5%. We aimed at an 8% growth, but it grew only at 4.5% the last quarter. It is the third slowest rate of since financial year 2006. The graph shows GDP growth rate across two base years, that is 4-5 and 11-12. So this is considering the base year of 4-5. The second one is around 11-12. We can see here after 2004-5, now it is reduced now as 4.5. This is 2019 data. So 6-year low has been recorded and growth is marked only by 4.5%. As we have discussed just now, that whatever the growth is also not from the private consumption, it is by the government expenditure. So the graph in blue color, this one, shows that marginal growth due to festive season, while investment or gross fixed capital formation is same. Okay, we can see it have marginal growth have recorded, but again it came down low. The red mark shows that again it slipped down. And the yellow one shows that steep rise is happening. So the yellow graph which shows GFCE or gross fixed capital formation. This was on a rise at some point, but again it is very low rising. The third one shows gloomy industry. The fall in consumption and investment impacted the industry segment in the latest quarter, particularly manufacturing sector. Please see the yellow mark. This is manufacturing sector which is going down. Then we have mining sector that also moves down. Recorded the second slowest. Construction sector in parrot green. Yeah, that also moving down. And finally, agriculture sector remains stagnant. There is not much growth or slowdown in the agriculture sector. You can see here. While talking about the service sector, it is not as slow as industry, but of course there is a slow growth being mentioned. Service sector growth, though not as muted as this industry segment, recorded many lows. Trade, hotels, transport services, you can see in the blue color, showing a low trend. Only company which shows a steep rise was the public administration and defense services. That's in this green. Okay, that we also know it is from the public expenditure which is done. Our next article is with respect to environment and ecology, precisely global warming. The article states that UN chief opens climate summit with call for hope over surrender. Representatives are in Madrid for 2-week meeting on tackling global warming. The UN chief advocated that more ambitious action to reverse the upward march of greenhouse gas emissions, urged governments to avoid the path of surrender that would endanger the health and safety of all. The leader also advocated for youth-led activism, that is, delegates to resolve an important outstanding issue from the Paris Accord, that is, rules on carbon trading, seem as vital for kickstarting faster action to reduce emissions. At the same time, Poland's climate minister, who led the last round of UN climate negotiations in December last year, have said that a surge in youth-led climate activism underscored the urgency of the task. They have the courage to speak up and remind us that we inherited this planet from our parents. So existing pledges make under the Paris Accord fall short of the kind of transformation actions needed to avoid the most disastrous consequences of global warming in terms of sea level rise, droughts, storms, and other impacts.